You Baruch Hashem, another 5 minutes of Tefillah. We learned a deep idea yesterday, which is that when it comes to Tefillah, comes to Avodah, there's a deeper intrinsic component of davening, more than just the words that we say, more than just the Tefillah that is said. It's the person himself. As if Shimshon Pincus equated Tefillah to one serving in the Beis HaMikdash, and he said, just like in the Beis HaMikdash, there were payasais, there was an actual lottery, because everyone wanted. Who wouldn't want to serve in the Beis HaMikdash? So too, that is the excitement we have to have, or try to have, or even fathom to have when we come to daven. And he says that when it comes to karbanos, when it comes to the kohanim, the kohen himself is part of the Avodah. And he says such a telling example. Imagine you go out and you buy yourself this tremendous carbon, this perfect animal. You spend thousands of dollars and you're so excited and you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash and everything is perfect. But the kohen was puzzle. The kohen didn't go to the mikvah, the kohen had a mum, whatever it is. The whole carbon is basically nothing. So we can have a perfect tefillah, quote unquote. But if we ourselves aren't showing up with that same perfection, with that same, as he spoke about, the clean guf, the appropriate attire, putting our feet together, the body of ourselves being clean and pure, then the tefillah itself is lacking. And he gives one more example over here. He says the kohanim were such utmost purity. The kohen, if he had a bowel movement, he had to go to the mikvah. If he went to meiraglayim, he had to wash his hands and his legs from the kiyar. A very high level of kedusha that the kohen himself had to have, aside for the animal, and aside for being in the Beis HaMikdash, the holiest place on the earth. But the kohen, the mere mortal bringing the carbon, needed that utmost purity as well. Says of Shimshon Pincus, this is what we as the person saying the tefillah needs as well. And he ends this segment with a very penetrating line. And he says, this is achas asibais, one of the reasons, lama ein royin hatzlacha ba'avodas hatfilah, why we do not see success in our davening. He says, even though we're trying l'rakiz hamachshava, we're trying to have our intent and we're trying to have kavana, and yet we just don't have siyata dishmaya. And maybe we wonder, we're sitting here, this is the 96th year, and we're sitting here and we're trying to have kavana and the pirush hamilim, and understanding what we're doing, and understanding that when we stand to daven, we're ridding ourselves of the gashmias, and then we try to have intent and we try to say the words, and maybe there's a moment that we wonder, why isn't it working? Says of Shimshon Pincus, you know why? Because all the asek and all the hishtadlos that we're doing is only in the tefillah itself. Go back to our example of the carbon. It's buying that perfect animal, bringing it to the Beis HaMikdash, but we're lacking in the second component. It says Rav Shimshon Pincus that is only chatzi the malacha. The carbon itself, the tefillah itself, is only half of the malacha, whereas there is the person bringing the carbon, the kohen doing the avodah, that is as integral as the carbon, as the tefillah. So with such a chizik, he concludes this section, and he says, in order to be zeiche for siyata dishmaya and to have a tefillah beratzain, we need to have the hishtadlus on both halves. Number one, of course, in the tefillah, of course, in the words, of course, in the kavanah, but number two, in the person, in the body, in ourselves, in the purity of thought, of mind, in the gofnaki, in the wearing appropriate clothing, in the standing when needs to be stand. That is a second and intrinsic component in the tefillah as well. I will conclude just by starting the next section, which is a difficult and deep section that we'll pick up with tomorrow, which if you look at how the English coins it, it sort of shows there's going to be something incredible here. The English is, serve Hashem, not yourself. And it sounds interesting. How am I serving myself? Of course I'm serving Hashem. But he goes on to explain in depth how sometimes we are davening and we're serving Hashem, but it's all with one mindset, to help myself. And with that, he's going to explain how you're not serving Hashem, unfortunately. That's parai by the Nile, that's serving yourself. Whereas to serve Hashem is much deeper and much greater, is without the end result, is purely for no other reason than we're davening that we're serving Hashem, because Kasher Tziva HaBayri, as we'll pick up tomorrow, B'siyato Dishma.